Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for this Period Action Day 2021 session on menstruation, sustainability, and environmental justice. My name is Aliyah De Jesus, and I am the Vice Chair of the Youth Advisory Council here at Period, and I'm going to be your host for today. We have a really exciting, engaging discussion with panelists who have lots of passion and tons of experience with this topic. So I'm going to first kick it off to the panelists so that they can introduce themselves. Zeal or Ella, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Aliyah De Jesus. I'm an environmental activist based in the UK, and I founded the campaign to end period plastic, which calls on manufacturers and retailers to remove plastic from their period products. Thanks so much for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zeal Desai. I'm the co-founder of Green Periods. We are an initiative to create awareness on sustainable menstruation and co-creator of the Menstrual Footprint Calculator, which quantifies the individual economic and ecological impact of menstruation. I'm based out of Austin, Texas. Got my bachelor's here at UT Austin and my master's at Duke University. And I'm also a certified yoga instructor and a reusable product user for 10 years. And fun fact, I'm on my period right now. Woohoo! Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you both for being here. I'm so excited for today's conversation. I got a little bit involved with menstrual sustainability and sustainable period products in undergrad, specifically with menstrual cups and introducing like menstrual drives where students would exchange their current like pads and tampons for menstrual cups. So I'm so excited to hear what you both have to say today. Ella, could you first tell us a little bit about your #EndPeriodPlastic campaign and what led you to start it?
Yeah, so for me, it all started when I was actually working as a postal worker for Royal Mail. And I was walking the streets delivering mail and packages, and I began to notice how much was being thrown away each week. And it was just bags and bags piling up. And I hadn't really thought about it before, but I started to think about how much we're throwing away on a national scale. And that really concerned me. So I started to make my own product switches, and I felt so good about it. But then my period started, and for the first time, I really began to notice how much was piling up in the bin from just one period cycle. So I did some research, and I was horrified to find out that the products that I'd been using for so many years could contain up to 90% plastic. Now, I didn't really know what I could do about it at this point, and I kept questioning, you know, why are we using something for a few hours made of plastic, which is then taking centuries to break down? And why aren't big brands changing when small companies can make them without plastic? I'd even gone into my local supermarket to get an alternative option, and I was really frustrated to find that actually there was no option. It was either plastic or plastic. And that's not fair, because how can we really make a decision about what we buy as an individual if there is no option there available? We can't. So I carried on with my job, thinking someone else would do something about it. But all of these issues just kept rolling around in my head, and I kept getting bugged about it. Like, it just really frustrated me. But I didn't really know what I could do as an individual about it, because as a postal worker, I was thinking, you know, what can I really do about this massive problem? But when I saw other campaigns like Laura Corrigan's End the Tampon Tax petition in the UK, that really made me believe, you know, actually, maybe I can do something. So I started the campaign to remove plastic from period products. And that all started in 2018, which was a very long time ago now. And, you know, these products they're the 5th most common item found on Europe's beaches because they're flushed down toilets. They're even found in the top 20 they're the top 20 in the top 20 most found items on America's shorelines too, from the Center of international environmental law found that. And it just goes to show how much of a global problem that this is and where they're ending up. Even people have sent me pictures of tampon applicators ending up on beaches in the UK, which are not from any brands over here. They're actually from US-based brands. So it's just showing where they can end up when they get flushed down the toilet. Now, you might be thinking, like, why am I doing this? Why am I going after big brands? Well, the reason is because these brands, they often put the blame on us as individuals to avoid ownership of the problem. And they've got the wealth and the resources to change. And we need to stop these negative impacts at source with them so that we can stop it all happening downstream. And that's what I'm really passionate about doing, is holding these brands accountable and working with them to bring about change. And it's happening, which is fantastic. The campaign's led to 4 removing plastic applicators from their products, which is saving over 28 tons of plastic each year. And it's inspired many others to also launch their own sustainable ranges. But we really need that collective action on all levels to really bring about long-lasting change. You know, we need individuals to be changing the way that they purchase these products. We need big brands to be changing what they're doing, and we need the government to be doing things as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your focus on different levels of change, whether it be personal or interpersonal or governmental and community level. I think that's so important with menstruation and the menstrual movement in general. Zeal, could you tell us a little bit about Green Periods and why you felt the need to start this organization?
Yeah, so we started around 2020. It was World Menstrual Hygiene Day. And I had been using my reusable cup at that point for about 10 years. And I had always reflected back on how my life had almost transformed with using it, and how my relationship with my periods had changed. So then I started thinking about the waste, like Ella, and I was just curious. It was just some random idea that came to my head because I saw a statistic out there, and I was like, let me just sit down and put a pen to my paper and see what my impact has been when it comes to the waste and the cost of what I have potentially saved in the last decade of just using one product, and of course not having to throw away, single-use plastic every month is definitely a plus. So I was like, okay, let me see how much I might have saved. So I did the math, and the numbers were astounding. I was just blown away because I found out, and then of course I extrapolated if somebody were to use disposables versus reusables, what their impact would have been. And I figured out that over a lifetime, which is about 40 years that a menstruator spends menstruating on average, 2 pounds of waste are generated by reusable products over a lifetime of 40 years versus at least 250 pounds on average for disposables. Huge. And then when I did the math for the cost, $200 on average, if we consider, that we're not going crazy buying these reusable products. So $200 were spent over a lifetime of reusable product usage compared to $2,000 for disposables. So I was just shocked. And I thought to myself, this is something that more people need to see, because we don't often sit down and think about these impacts long term. Especially, we think, okay, a pad costs me like what, 30 cents. I'll go out and get it. It's not that much. But a lot of people cannot even afford that, which I think we can touch upon later in this conversation. And period poverty is a whole different problem associated with menstruation. So I thought to myself that we need to develop a system or a calculator. And that's how the menstrual footprint calculator was born, so that anybody who wants to measure this impact can just go on our website and just put their numbers in. It's very simple to take that quiz. Takes less than 3 minutes. Just answer a couple of questions, and then you know your individual menstrual footprint. So that's how the idea was born. And until now, all the kind of testimonials that we've received have been the exact same reaction that I had in the beginning. It's people just say it's eye-opening, right? And hopefully it will lead people to at least think about their individual impact. And I think that big actions start with small changes. So if we were, like Ella was saying, to have a collective action, if one person did, zero waste or sustainability imperfectly, that would be much stronger than, let me take that back. If everybody did zero waste or sustainability imperfectly, it would be much better than just one person doing it perfectly. And I think that's the message we want to drive across with something as personal as menstruation, where we could have a choice in the kind of impact or the footprint that we leave behind in this world, where these plastic products are taking up to 1,000 years to break down. So I think that is the message we want to send across, that it's just about reusable products that are not just good for the environment, but also good for you and even for your wallet, right? And then even for health, because of the kinds of ingredients that we don't know are being put into the conventional disposable products.
Thank you so much. I wish that statistics like this, like those that you mentioned, and these footprint calculators were more easily accessible to the general public, and so that people are more aware that these facts are out there and out for public use. Kind of in line with that, you had shared with me earlier, Zeal, an interesting fact that approximately $40 billion US dollars were spent on disposable menstrual products in 2020 globally, according to Statista. And with that, Green Period estimates that 30 billion pounds or 14 billion kilograms end up in landfills and oceans every single year. And so with that, let's talk about sustainable products. What are some examples of sustainable and safe period products that people can use? And why should people be using them if they have access to doing so? Ella, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I think this is such an important thing that we can switch. It's very personal to us, and we can have a massive impact by doing it, as Zeal has already pointed out. And I think as well, when you switch to reusable products particularly, you connect more with your period too, and you find something that actually fits you better. And it's quite liberating. I don't know if anyone else has felt that way, but I remember when I started using cups, period pants, and cloth pads, actually having that closer relationship with my period was really good. Because I feel like most of the time we're I don't know what everyone else's experience is with periods at school, but when I got period education, or lack of it, I was given branded period products to use which were disposable. And you go back to those brands again for years and years and years, and you never question what you're using, because you just think, well, that's the brand I was given by adults, that's what I've got to use. And obviously it doesn't have to be that way, and we shouldn't have our periods marketed to us at such a young age either, especially with all the taboos surrounding it, because we just go back to them again and again. So when we switch to these sustainable products, it's not only better for the environment, because you're not having the extraction of fossil fuels, it's not ending up in the environment in the same way that it would with plastic disposable products, they're not being incinerated. And also you haven't got all of those ingredients and chemicals that Zeal mentioned too. And I mean, the cocktail of synthetics that go into them, I mean, we don't even know the impacts of what that is having on our bodies, which is really scary. So it just goes to show how it's better for the planet, it's better for us, it's better for our health. It's literally a win-win-win.
Thank you. Zeal, would you like to get a stab at it?
Yeah, I think Ella mentioned most of the amazing points on that, but I would just like to add that with reusables, they typically last 5 to 10 years on average. And I think that is big, not just environmentally, but also economically, because with period poverty being a big concern for menstruators all around the world, I think that with reusables, it just diminishes the recurring need of buying these products over and over and over again. And like I mentioned earlier, it's just the amount of savings. So a fun fact is if you go to the calculator and if you put in a disposable product on the quiz, at the end of the questionnaire, the results would show you how much money you would have saved if you were to switch to a reusable products and put that savings into an APR account. And I think that's something that people are always like very fascinated with, that because we don't think about the savings or the amount of compounding and the interest that, you know, let math do its magic over a long period of time. 40 years is a long time to be able to saving not only the money, but also our environment. So I really recommend menstruators to at least consider giving reusable products a try.
Thank you. Okay, so despite all the amazing impacts of using sustainable and safe period products, what are some barriers that people encounter in trying to access and use these products? Zeal, would you like to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the high upfront cost could be a barrier for a lot of people. These period products, unfortunately, they are not very accessible for a lot of people because they haven't been around for that long. Although menstrual cups have been around since the 1930s. But with the kind of corporate marketing and promotion around disposable products that a lot of these multinational brands have been doing over the years, and the kind of stigma that also exists with menstruation, where they literally put blue blood instead of red just so that periods can be seen as something dirty or something that you're not supposed to come in contact with. That's a whole barrier by itself as well. So I would say that these two factors, along with the learning curve, that can also be a barrier for some people, because reusable products, just not enough is known about these products. People don't really hear about them. They don't really know how to use them. And there's always some squirmishness too when it comes to inserting products or cleaning your own blood, washing it off your pads. So I would say that these are some of the barriers.
Thank you. Ella, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I think affordability is a massive barrier with reusable period products, but also access. You know, if they're not in these supermarkets, how are people ever going to be able to switch to them? So that access is really important too, to actually be able to make them mainstream. And we also need to get them into period education at schools, you know, showing the whole range of products that we can use on our periods, because that's the only way we're going to be able to normalize it. I've been in schools and I've spoken to young kids about these products, and they have so many questions, but they have no barriers to using them because they haven't had that taboo and that shame put on them yet. But when you've got that happening then with adults and that negative connotation with periods later in their education, it just harms everything with these products, because they're like, oh, what's that? You know, I don't want to use that, it's gross. And it just all feeds into that taboo. But I would also say as well, with poverty, that the access to, say, washing facilities to wash menstrual cups, or washing machines being able to, wash your period pants and cloth pads, that's another barrier to not being able to use them. Or if people are homeless, they can't use them either. For example, I'm sure there are so many countries now making these products freely available at schools and colleges. And one of the things that I've been calling for, especially in the UK, is for that money to be spent on eco-friendly products and reusable products, because that's, if we're going to be spending that money, let's collectively, end period poverty, but end the plastic crisis and also protect the environment all at the same time. And I'm really pleased that Welsh governments and 5 Welsh councils are doing that with 100% of their funding, which is really important because we're tackling the social and the environmental aspect all at the same time. So that's what I mean. There are so many barriers, but I think it's important to also think about the ways that we can positively change this too, with having positive conversations about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that you touched on access to awareness in addition to financial resources and physical resources, because obviously the first step to being able to use sustainable products is knowing about them in the first place. And knowing about them can certainly be a luxury for some communities in some parts of the world. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, both for us, for governments, and different communities. Okay, so we kind of already touched on this a little bit with our last question, but what are the ways in which menstrual health intersects with environmental justice and also social justice? Zeal, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we already shared the big numbers about the waste and the cost, especially the waste aspect for menstrual justice. I think that it would just be really big if we were to switch to reusables, and then we wouldn't have the 30 billion pounds of trash that's ending up in landfills and oceans. So basically menstruation then is obviously affecting the environment. The concept of period poverty then ties into the social justice piece as well, where people are having to choose whether they want to buy their next meal or their next menstrual product. And this is not just in developing countries, but you also have this problem in the US, in the UK. I know that there was a study done in the US on a major city, and 60% of menstruators, I believe it was in Missouri, they did not have access to period products because of affordability. And we're talking not just reusable products, which have high upfront costs anyway, but these menstruators were not even able to afford pads and tampons that are disposable. So it's a very big problem. And organizations like yourself, Period, are doing such a great job in making sure that there is no menstruator that doesn't have access to these products in general. And it's been great to know that you all also distribute sustainable products, which is amazing. I just think that the more we have these conversations and the more we educate and create awareness on sustainable products, reusable products, it would just make it easier for people to both accept these and create that change that we really need to see.
Thank you. Ella, go ahead.
I mean, I'd echo everything that Zeal has said there with this, and also, too, with the social justice side, everybody, no matter their background, wherever they are, deserves to have a choice in what they use. They deserve that. It's a right, really. We shouldn't be just having these cheaper products made available en masse. It should be opened up to everyone, and that's, again, what is so great about what you're doing is you're actually offering those alternative product options, because something about taking those options to people is really, really important because they don't normally have that choice. And it's opening up a different community with a problem that they've probably never thought about. They've not had the luxury or the privilege of being able to consider the environmental side of things because they're literally just trying to get by day to day. And another thing I would say about the environmental justice side of things is, you know, these products are made en masse. You know, they're made in the billions, they're used for a couple of hours, they're disposed of, and then they take 500 years to break down. They're contributing to the extraction of fossil fuels, and then when they're disposed of, they're either incinerated, sent to landfill, or end up in the environment. And even when they're sent to landfill, we don't really know where that's ending up. Especially in the UK, you know, we've been sending all of our waste overseas, and then that pollutes other communities. And it's just horrific, you know, that this is happening. So it can have it's all so connected. And when you start to pick it apart, you only then realise how much it is. You know, when I started my campaign, I started it for the environment, but then you realise actually there's concerns for health. Period poverty is happening. I wasn't even aware of that because I have the privilege of, you know, being able to afford period products. So it's all so connected. And once you see the bigger picture, you realise how much we can change by tackling all of these things together. You know, we often sit in separate rooms for social period poverty or environment, but we need to bring those rooms together to really think about all of the problems as one.
Thank you so much. I love how both of you touched on the idea of health as a human right, a basic human right, and menstrual health included within that. And I also appreciated how both of you talked about, you know, intersectionality and the way that different identities produce different oppressions, and that those oppressions create this network producing this unique lived experience per menstruator. And so that's obviously extremely important in considering, you know, the context in which each menstruator menstruates and how that contributes to their experience. And so I appreciate that being like a women's and gender studies major in college and now a public health student, I loved that you brought that up. I thought that was incredibly important to mention. Okay. Next question is, what would be different if we #end period plastic, and how would this change our world? Ella, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so if we could do this, it would obviously save a lot of waste from being produced, but it would also raise awareness of the different options to people, because everyone in their period is completely different. It would open that wealth to choice. You'd be able to go into the supermarket and actually have every option available in front of you, which is what I really want to see. You know, we never see, before I started the campaign, they were never available. And I didn't even know about reusables at the time. I was just focused on the disposable aspect and making them plastic free. But we have to have the whole range in there. We have to have the reusables, we have to have the more eco-friendly disposable products too. And also, I feel like when we're holding these brands accountable for what they're doing, this can then be translated to other areas of supermarkets, to different products. We need to be really active about this because, you know, not many people talk about period products when they're talking about plastic pollution. They get stuck on the straws, the bottles and the bags, but it's much bigger than that. And it's these everyday items that we're using that we really can make a difference if we tackle it. And by tackling it together, we can really create massive change, especially when we talk about it with other people, when we're raising awareness about it. But just even simply writing to brands about this problem and really engaging with them. Because I think, you know, when you see a massive industry giant, it's hard to think that you can ever make a difference about it. You know, I felt that way. But if you don't start that conversation, you'll never know.
Thank you so much. Zeal, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would like to visualize a couple of different scenarios here. So, I'm in Texas right now, and there is no period education in schools whatsoever. It's not mandatory. I don't believe it is in any part of the US, but don't quote me on that. It was shocking to me when I heard about that, and how there is no information or education formally about menstrual management or even hygiene. So I think that the majority of the education around menstruation comes from either our peers or our families, and we don't know how credible or how legitimate that education is because it's so informal. There's no set standards to that. So I would think that if we were to put an end to the way menstruation is managed now, of course, I think it would make menstruation much more streamlined. It would remove stigma, which is a big barrier to menstruation, menstrual justice in general. So I would just imagine that more schools and more formal education would be willing to impart this unbiased kind of an education, kind of considering the wide range of products that are starting to become available even in the markets. So that would be one. If I'm from India originally, and if you go back to India, I would think that if we ended single waste menstrual products, single-use, menstrual products, it would just really make a big dent on the way waste management happens there. Because at this point in time, there is a lot of manual waste collection. So waste collectors literally are using their hands, unfortunately, to collect all the waste that is being generated. And we're talking about a country like India with 2 billion people, and half of them menstruate at any given point in time. So I would think it would make life better for a lot of people, not only menstruators in general. So waste collection would definitely be a big factor here as well. And then I would also like to see, this is more around, not just period plastic again, a partnership or a collaboration throughout the governmental, business, private sectors, as well as nonprofits. Because this holistic approach, like Ella was mentioning, is just so important to tackling such a big problem that we're facing right now as a society. And it has the implications of gender equity as well, because if maybe the people who identify as men menstruated, we wouldn't have the luxury tax or the tampon tax as well. So it's just a lot of different things to think about, how the world could be different. I can just keep going on and on, but I really think that with ending period plastic, it would just be a transformational thing for menstruators and how they feel more in sync with their bodies, with the absence of stigma, and how it would be better for people starting all the way from waste collectors in the society up to educational systems that would be more open to talking about sustainable menstruation and just menstruation in general.
Wonderful. Thank you both for bringing up the idea of collaboration and the importance of community. As we all know, we're not in this alone and we can't do it alone. And so to really initiate the change that we want to see, we have to work together. And I love that you both brought that up. So this is a wonderful discussion, but we've come to our final question. So in closing, how can people get involved with both of your causes or find more information? And what can we do to increase menstrual sustainability? Ella, kick us off, please.
Sure. So people can get in touch with me via my website at www.aliyahdejish.com. But the greatest thing that you can do is talk to your friends about this problem, because that sparks awareness. It creates a wave of action and change. It literally, as we've already spoken about, that initial awareness is what gets you into all these different topics, and it just helps dispel the period taboo too. And if you could sign the petition and get involved with campaign action, that would be amazing. That's on change.org/end period plastic. And yeah, just get involved and talk about it.
Thank you. And Zeal?
Yeah, so what can people do to get involved with green periods? I would say that go on to greenperiods.org/calculator. It's a great first step. I think that it really sets the tone for this issue, both when it comes to your personal footprint in terms of both economic and ecological factors. And then I would also say, I agree with Ella, talk about it, use your voice, make it heard, and each one teach one. So if you learn something new today, please go ahead and share it with at least one of your friends or family. And then I would also say that it is very important to be aware and mindful of the kind of impact we're creating with the power of money. I think that whatever we buy is like casting a vote in the ballot for the products that we choose to use in our life. So if we were to use that money then as a way to create a kind of world we want to live in now and the world that we want to leave behind for future generations, I would say that if we were to choose companies that are doing the right thing when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to menstrual health, you want to make sure that you're investing in the right kind of products that are going to benefit everybody in the long run. And also vote for the kind of leaders that are more likely to introduce menstrual equity and justice in their agendas. So I would just like to leave with this, right? That you also need to educate yourself when it comes to the range of products that are out there. And there is so much information. We're also in the process of putting together a whole educational toolkit around the different options that are available for sustainable menstruation. But at this point in time, we have a whole section dedicated to just a quick glance, kind of a snapshot of the different reusable and disposable products that are available out there, and how each of them compare to the other when it comes to the amount of time that these products can last you, or the cost and the waste associated with them, as well as some health parameters that are also a part of using these products. So yeah, you can follow us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Green Periods. And yeah, there is a whole bunch of resources out there. So do check them out.
Amazing. Thank you both. So just to reiterate, for everyone watching from wherever you happen to be, do your research, consider using period products, sustainable period products, if you have access, and if you haven't already, don't be afraid to engage with your family, your friends, your community to help destigmatize this conversation and bring it to light and increase awareness. And finally, follow legislation in your state and or your country so that you're up to date on the status of everything. And so with that, thank you to Aliyah De Jesus and Zeal Desai for this wonderful discussion. And of course, thank you to everyone watching this. Bye.